Okay, everybody, this is Robbie Bessner, co-founder and device developer of Therasage, and we have a new episode that I'd like to bring forward today, but it's a special episode because it's part of a series that we're doing for Lyme awareness. And for everybody out there, the month of May is actually designated as a awareness month for the Lyme community, Lyme research, for Lyme patients, for everybody to sort of zero in on that infectious disease and chronic disease. And so today I'm so honored to have a dear friend, Jaclyn Willms, with us. And she is amazing. She's a young woman, she's Canadian born and spends part of the time in the US and most of the time in Canada. She's been she's an activist in basically bodybuilding, body training. Actually, movement is her category. So, and what she does is she kind of uses movement as a vehicle to tune the body up and to basically reconnect and create a really strong foundation for health. She's been an active body movement trainer for more than 12 years. And she's just amazing. Before we even get started, and you're going to see this towards the end too, if you want to get a hold of her directly, you can do that by just reaching out to her, through her email account, and that would be Jaclyn at niagarafit.com. So she spells Jaclyn, Jaclyn, at Niagara, like Niagara Falls, NIAGRAFIT.com. She's got a website that's JaclynWillmsHealth.com. So that's spelled JACLYN WILLMS Health.com. Or you can find her on her Instagram. I guess you can find her just through her Instagram account, right? And or through her program, which is Movement 47, which I think is also a program on Instagram. Is that right, Jaclyn?
Yes, you can find MVMT. It's MVMT47 on Instagram.
Right. Yeah. So let's start with, how do you get started? Like, why is movement so important? And remember now, we're talking to the Lyme community. And so many of the Lyme patients out there, you're going to get people with Lyme that are fully functional, that they have good days and bad days, sometimes bad days, and the Lyme comes out. And then you have people on the other end of the spectrum that are, so plagued with their Lyme challenge that they can't get out of bed. So let's start with a little bit of your background, like how you got started in this area of, for your skill set. And then let's start working towards helping people out there. I hope at the end of our interview today that everyone out there will get super psyched about knowing you and knowing that someone like you is out there. How important movement is to general body health and underlying health in general. Yeah. And then in particular, the Lyme patients out there, like what can we teach them today that they can take home and they can start practicing right away? And so moving closer towards getting themselves get better. So I know that's a compounded, question in a sense, but let's just start with kind of how you got started, a little bit of your background.
Yes, amazing. Thank you so much, Robbie, for having me here again. So how I got started was, as a little girl, I actually wanted to be a nurse or a doctor because I always thought I just want to help people and I want to help their physical body. So those two things I knew. And that quickly led me down the road of being introduced that there were such things as personal trainers. So as I evolved as a trainer, I then thought, okay, how can I bring the training side and help people like I would if I was a doctor? So I thought, okay, there is a gap here between people thinking that they want to lift heavy weights and having compromised immune systems or having hip replacements that they couldn't go to that extreme. So I kind of evolved my own career into becoming a movement specialist and a posture therapist. So I quickly realized that there was always one common denominator that stopped people from moving correctly, and that always came back down to their balance and stability. So people were blocked because their balance was off or their stability was off. So, and balance means so much more than just being able to stand on one leg. So that's the balance of the front to back of your body, to being able to correct your equilibrium, just being able to stand in good posture. Because as soon as our posture is compromised, then our breathing is compromised. And the way all the systems of our body work is compromised. So in relative to Lyme, that was like the perfect situation for me. Someone that was in bed that day and they felt like they just didn't have the energy to move. So then what does exercise mean for them? That might just mean closing their eyes and visualizing movement, visualizing wiggling their toes, wiggling their fingertips, taking some deep breaths, moving the inside of their body first. So as soon as their body is ready and they have a little bit extra energy, they're ready to go. They're in that proper mindset that they're ready to move. They might be wanting to do something more standing. So for me, it was just really bridging that gap between what people think exercise is versus helping people that can't even visualize themselves doing exercise yet. So when I see someone's face light up because they actually just moved their fingertips or they took a step forward without shaking, I mean, that truly is what lights me up, when someone is able to balance more today than they did yesterday, because you're only as strong as you are stable. So as soon as you're able to balance, then the sky's the limit at that point.
Wow, that's so important. And these are subtle things, subtle energies that we're moving around.
Mm-hmm.
And people, out there, like, particularly the Lyme guys and gals, what they see, and this is my visualization, is sort of like this hourglass of their lives, and the sand is dropping through the hourglass, and that's their life sort of slipping away sometimes. And they don't realize that there are real things that they can do to help themselves, get better.
Mm-hmm.
And the mind-body connection is so important. And so sometimes when you're plagued, then you can't move around so much. You don't feel like moving around so much because you don't feel great. Or, in our case, our daughter had a lot of body pain and muscle pain and neurological challenges. Sometimes her muscles would twitch, or she'd feel like someone was sticking her with pins and needles, and it was so uncomfortable. She felt like she was jumping out of her skin in a way,
Right.
But really what that is sort of like either a hypersensitivity or a desensitivity in her nerve endings and her neurological system. So it's, again, that brain connection. And so what you just described about just visualizing what it's like to be healthy, to have movement, in your brain to visualize moving a toe, moving a hand, and then actually taking the next step to actually engaging some of that movement.
Mm-hmm.
You're actually reconnecting the dots that maybe the Lyme has taken away from you temporarily. And so when you've got a chronic challenge, it just feels like that there is no hope. There's no way out. You can't claw your way out.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes when it comes to body movement and body training and bodybuilding, what they see are these athletes on TV that can jump higher and run faster, or these very shapely people that have been going to gyms and working out. They don't realize that it can be as simple and as primal as what you're describing, to sort of claw your way back. And we all have that ability. And also what I've noticed, even with working with you and seeing you in your classes and the way that you motivate people, is that, it's sort of like one step at a time. In Lyme definition, you climb this toxic mountain, because the Lyme is inside of you, it's using your body resources, and it's also, pooping and creating toxic events inside of you. And so movement is so important in helping you kind of negotiate down the toxic mountain. And it doesn't have to be done in giant steps. You don't have to feel so intimidated that you're never going to look like that shapely person and be able to lift deadlift, 300 pounds, it's all about the coordination of your brain and your body parts and getting it all tuned up. And again, it's one step at a time. So how do you, let's start with, a Lyme patient that doesn't move around a real lot, is having an episode and, for whatever reason, they find themselves in bed or having challenges getting up. Like, what kinds of things, what kind of messages, give us some real good things to bite into, that we can actually utilize tomorrow in some of the methods that you use.
Yeah, the first thing I like to tell people is just to relax. Just take a couple deep breaths, and it's that box breathing, that 4 seconds in, 4 seconds hold at the top, 4 seconds exhale, and 4 seconds rest, because what that is going to do is calm your nervous system. Because we often get very hyped up when we think of something that we maybe can't do, or something that scares us, or we might have got injured. So you might have tried to stand up before and fell over your feet, or there might be a negative thought pattern associated with doing something. So eliminating that first. So breathing, calming your nervous system down, getting extra oxygen in. And when you do that deep box breathing, that 4 seconds in, 4 seconds hold, 4 seconds exhale, 4 seconds rest, that also is going to lift your rib cage, bring you into a better posture. And as soon as you're in a better posture, you're going to begin to think differently as well. So when we're rounded, we're not thinking usually positive thoughts when we're in a rounded state. So just sitting up nice and tall, doing that box breathing is going to put you in a better frame of mind and get your body ready to move. And then just thinking where your feet are. So just begin to connect with your toes, because we often forget about our toes, forget that our toes are so important with our balance. So just getting used to our body, just triggering each joint, each muscle, starting from the bottoms of our feet, into our ankles, into our knees, into our hips, into our pelvis and our core, into our shoulders, right into the top of our head. And then even just thinking about your heart, it's beating for you. And that alone is amazing. So just think of everything that's going right. And then we can build on that from there. So instead of thinking, I can't do that, or I can't do this, focus on what already is going well, and then you can build from there.
Wow, that's awesome. I'm sorry, I'm sure you probably had more to say, so if I cut you off, I apologize. But just for the audience that's watching this, I mean, all of us have had panic attacks. All of us have been overwhelmed with our lives and without Lyme. Now, when you dial it up and you have a Lyme to deal with, you also have that extra layer or challenge that you're working with, and that panic sets in, and all of a sudden you're just sort of a deer in the headlights, just frozen. And getting into the breath, I mean, that's such an important message, and everybody can do that. And just understanding that just by breathing properly, you can get rid of that anxiety, not just if you're, have a challenge just getting out of bed, but certainly in your normal daily life, an episode of Lyme can come in the middle of a sentence. It doesn't have to be just when you first wake up in your day. And so having that as a tool, what a great gift. Thank you so much for that one. And I love the heart-centeredness, understanding and focusing on the good things in your life, because oftentimes, it's very easy to get swallowed up and not feeling great. And sometimes, everybody, your rescue team, your dynamic of your family, they're there to help you, but you're still somewhat alone with your own feelings, and your health challenge. And so knowing that there's a way out, and knowing that there's hope, and starting to focus a little bit away from what you're feeling at the moment towards what your life could be like, will be like, visualizing what it's like coming out the other end of the tunnel when you're functioning and you're feeling great and you're back in your style and your community, and doing the things that bring you what I call bliss. So keep going, Jaclyn. You're batting 1,000 right now. So tell us some more.
So the next one for me is always vision. So depending on where you are in your journey, you might be someone that can just pound out 10 squats. But if you're someone that feels stuck in their physical body, having that vision and seeing yourself moving first. Because if you have a body, you can move. You are gifted this body, and this body is made to move, and you will progress with the little appropriate steps. So depending on where you are in your journey, and that's where my answer is going to be a little bit different for everybody, but having that vision first, and that's where kind of that mental fitness needs to be established. Because if you can't visualize yourself standing, if you can't visualize yourself walking proud with your chest up, then you're never going to do it. So you need to see yourself there first. And then once you see yourself there, then you'll be able to muster up that strength to actually do it. But again, you are going to have good days, you are going to have bad days, and really listening to your body is
Awesome.
If you feel you need to rest, then you truly probably just do need to rest today. But if you feel like you have that little bit of energy, then use that energy to do one more breath, one more movement, one more step. But depending where you are in your journey, an intense exercise routine just is not in your cards right now. But getting that movement, getting the fluid going, getting your blood flow elevated is something that you're going to want to do. So once you've done your breath, visualize yourself moving, and then find movements that feel good. And that might be simply putting on a song and just doing a few hip circles, a few, head circles, whatever that means for you. It might just putting on a song and dancing. It might be going for a 5-minute walk to your favorite song, to your favorite podcast. Movement really does mean something different for everybody.
That part's absolutely great. And I love that because you're giving me advice that I can use today. The song I like James Taylor. Everybody says I'm too retro, but when I put on a song, it brings me back to the place and the time in my life when I heard that song. Yeah. And so there's that free association with that happy place. And maybe that was the time when you didn't have a symptom from Lyme. You might have had it inside of you, it was growing up, but you weren't symptomatic. And so you just went about your business. And so I would love for all of us out there just to have a little piece. I call that a piece of paradise. That's what I think about Florida. Like, it's a little piece of paradise. You're in paradise. Take advantage of that. You don't have to be in Florida to have that. It's in your mind. Yeah. You can bring your mind to that space. And so, and also, I just love the way that you just articulated kind of just keep it simple, just putting on a song, getting motivated that way, and then turn that song into maybe moving around your house or your apartment or going out if you can for some air, just some of that. And then maybe where, if someone said, oh, you got to go out and you need to spend 30 or 40 minutes, maybe it's just 5 minutes. Maybe it's just sort of baby steps. And then we can go from baby steps into little bigger steps and then giant steps. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, you look back and you go, wow, I just went for a half hour like a month ago. I never thought that I would ever really kind of get out of bed or out of the apartment or house. And now I'm here, I'm out and about, and it's quite an accomplishment. And really, that's what I talk about when I say we kind of walk off that toxic mountain or get back to health. It's we creeped up the mountain slowly, one step at a time. And so we can come down the same way in a healthy way. And, I'll never forget one of the movement classes that you had on Instagram or after Instagram, like your Movement 47 thing. And you were just talking about like arch work and working with your feet and just making this, 200 or 300 bones in your feet and the way that they all interact and how that affects your balance and how your balance affects your posture and how your posture affects your esteem. And it's sort of all up the pyramid, Yes. And I was so impressed with your ability to, kind of direct us in your own way, that it just really said to me, wow, this is a very special person with very special skills that really everybody needs to know. So I'm so happy that you're here to give us some of your pearls. So let's just shift for a few more minutes because we don't have that much more time left. I want to talk about Many of you said a couple of things before that really struck a note for me. One was in movement, we're moving your metabolism or we're moving your blood around. And in blood, you have both your healing properties and you also have oxygen. And Lyme disease and the co-infections, the Bartonella and Babesia and the various different bacteria that travel with, they're generally by nature, they're anaerobic. They don't like oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
And so instilling or getting a little bit of movement starts to get the blood flow, starts to get the oxygen because oxygen is paired with your blood. And now all of a sudden, those little guys inside of you that seem to be running havoc on your system aren't so happy anymore because you're bringing them elements of nature. So they're somewhat disarmed. It's not like you're taking an antibiotic or some kind of medication that's changing your body chemistry. You're just breathing and
Mm-hmm.
bring an extra breath brings more oxygen to your blood, which brings more oxygen to your tissues and your cells, which these little buggers don't love too much. So here is a simple way, just through movement, carrying that movement to a favorite song that might get you out of bed, might get your kind of body moving a little bit, get the blood moving, get more oxygen. So in a very simple way, very primal way, we're tuning our body up and we're also pushing back on these little buggers that seem to be stampeding all over our general health. But before we move on,
Mm-hmm.
another system that the body has, part of the system that is called, our immune system, is our lymphatic system. And our lymphatic system is tied to movement. So I'm wondering if there's some things that you can give us, some pearls that you can give us that addresses, lymphatic drainage, lymphatic movement, maybe some stretches or exercises. And I know today isn't on screen isn't the best. And later on, we're going to talk as we close about how people can get a hold of you. But normally when I see you, you're not all dressed up like you are today. You're wearing an outfit, you're getting in front of the camera, you're actually showing all the movements. You're making it easy for me and everyone out there to know exactly what to do and to do it the right way. So can you just talk to us a little bit about maybe some things that we can do if we're not feeling so great and can't move around, or if we are feeling like we can move around that might support lymphatic movement?
Yes, exactly. And I know this is funny that I'm wearing an actual normal clothes today. Normally I am in my workout clothes, even if I am sitting, showing you proper posture, but just sitting there right now, being in proper posture. And in relation to the lymphatic system, that's something that you can be working on all day, every day. And I just want to quickly touch on, we have this preconception that we think that we need to exercise for 30 minutes all the time, where it doesn't need to be that way. It can be 1 minute here, 1 minute there. And that would be unique to the lymphatic system as well. That just putting your feet up, getting your feet up is number one. If you can reach your feet, reach your ankles, reach your calves, just giving yourself a gentle massage, touching your own body, touching your own neck, just getting things moving, if that's the stage that you're in right now. If you can move around a little bit more, just any sort of movement. We think that we need to be jumping on a trampoline or going for sprints. It never has to be that aggressive, just movement. Our body needs a stimulus in some way. It needs to be stimulated to regrowth. We're organic. Our cells are constantly rebuilding. So just any sort of movement. I think we make everything bigger than it needs to be. Just do anything, whatever you can do. If I say, oh, but you have to go for a walk to get your lymphatic system moving, but all you can do is wiggle your toes today, then wiggle your toes today. But if you feel like I can do 10 squats, then let's do those 10 squats. But really, whatever you feel you can do that. But it just comes back to having that vision for yourself. And maybe it's just journaling. Tomorrow, my goal is to do this. The next day, my goal is to do that. But constantly, your lymphatic system is something that needs to be stimulated all the time. So just doing whatever you can. Maybe you can't do 5 minutes all at once. So it's just constantly. Like right now, start to wiggle your toes. Start to touch your own skin. Just get everything moving. Be very familiar with your own body, or else it will shut off, and that's then connected to your nervous system, and it just goes on and on. Just constant and forever movement.
Wow, that's awesome. I love the touching thing because I don't often touch myself. And I think that that just is self-love, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? We could all use more of that. I want to share with you something that I picked up from Ben Greenfield, who is an influencer, ambassador, health guy. I was watching him one time on an interview, and he was doing the interview while he was on his treadmill. So he's got his
Mhm.
headset on, he's being interviewed, and he's on a treadmill. And then it occurred to me, like what you just talked about, historically for me, I would, now I'm home gymming and doing things around the house, but historically I used to get up, get my gym bag, go over to the health club, have that time carved out, hour and a half, whatever, door to door. And then I'd get that part done and then move on with my day, either once a week, 3 times a week, whatever my schedule could permit.
Mhm.
I'm watching this episode with Ben, and I'm thinking, why do I have to do that?
Mhm.
Like, my whole house, my whole life could be my gym, my home gym. Meaning, um, my when I take my garbage out, my driveway is about 300 feet from the front of my house. And so rather than just kind of lazy walking my garbage out or taking my garbage from the garbage depot to where the guys that come to collect it, I'm going to briskly walk
Yes.
to take my garbage there.
Yeah.
And then I said, okay, now I've got a split level house and my fish tanks and critters live upstairs. And so rather than just kind of up the stairs, I'm going to sort of start to move a little bit more quickly up those stairs. So now I'm getting a little bit more like a stairmaster. So I'm stairmastering up. Then when I get to the top of the stairs with the fish food and do all that stuff, I have 2 little dumbbells. They're not big, not heavy. They're like 10 pounds or whatever. But then when I'm there, while I'm feeding the fish and they're gobbling in, I'm doing some curls and I'm doing some presses. And so I kind of worked a circuit training into the normal things that I would do in my daily activity, that now made my home my jungle gym, sort of, or something, my circuit training. Does that make sense to you?
Totally. It depends on what your goals are. And if you have an active lifestyle, why do you need to go to the gym and build these big shoulders? You don't. It just depends what are your goals. If your goal is to be healthy, be balanced, feel good, heal your body, going to the gym isn't going to be part of that prescription because
Okay, but
often typical weights and dumbbells can end up having a harmful effect because it's actually going to create more tension in your body and start to shut down your lymphatic system because your muscles get too tight and too restricted. So the blood flow isn't flowing with ease like it should. And that's why the resistance bands are such a big part of my workout as well, because they actually help create that pliability to keep your body moving with ease and with flow. So your nerves and the blood and everything can start to flow freely like you would when you were a kid. And that's what the resistance
yeah,
bands do. They make you move more kid-like, because that's what we lose. We lose that jumpy, vibrant part of our movement, and that's what resistance bands allows us to do. And anyone can use a resistance band because you're not ripping and tearing your muscles. And for a Lyme patient, not going to be good at putting that extra stress on their body, asking their body to heal from ripped muscles, which is what typically a classic workout would be doing. So the resistance bands just create that flow and that movement, help your muscles lengthen and shorten, which is also going to help your lymphatic system as well.
so for all of you guys out there that don't know what Jaclyn's mentioning here, resistance bands are like kind of like rubber bands, but they're unique sizes and different tensions. And so
Mm-hmm.
you kind of put it around, part of your body. And so I can have a resistance band, let's say, on my hand, and then I can sort of gently push against the band. And then that's going to create like muscle strength and also range of motion shifts. And I just loved what you said about becoming more childlike. They did a study. This is one that, I'm full of all these little trivia things. And they studied the people of the island of Bali. And when you're a child, you have more than 700 different ranges of motion. This is like in the U.S. and most more populated and urban, higher elevated cultures. But if you dial back to like the island of Bali, where the the culture is thousands of years old, and because it's an isolated island in the middle of the South Pacific, they, for the longest time, they weren't very influenced by modern society, by machines and electricity and all those things that we call niceties. So a sociologist actually did a study on Polynesian children versus, let's say, American children. And because Polynesians, they've got these ranges, all these ranges of motion. And what they noticed was because American children like to be like their parents, parents are pretty stoic and stand up, have very little range of motion. The Polynesian children, through their dance practices and stretches, maintained more than 500 different angles and ranges that they could move, where the American children of the same age went from 700 to 500 to 300 to 100 ranges of motion. Mm-hmm. So that whole restriction process that you're talking about, really, and bringing us back to being more childlike, is so important to us, no matter what age you are. Mm-hmm. And, I just love the subtle way that you do it. We learned so much today, Jaclyn. I'm so, proud of you and your skill set and what you bring to the world, your contribution. I know everybody out there in the Lyme community. I mean, today we learned things you can do while you're in bed not feeling well, all to the point where you are feeling better and you are motivated and you can really dial it up. What's unusual about Jaclyn, she not only does kind of the one-on-one coaching thing, she also has a virtual practice, which means you don't even have to leave your apartment or your home. You can sort of just tune into her on Instagram. You can work out an appointment where she can work with you one-on-one if you want. Remember, you can get to her directly by either her Instagram account, which is Movement47, or JaclynWillmsHealth.com, or Jaclyn at NiagaraFit.com. Don't worry, you don't have to write it down. We'll have a slide. You guys can check this out at your earliest convenience. Jaclyn, thank you so much for joining us today. You're amazing. And we all learned so much. And I know everyone out there in the Lyme community is really grateful that you had an opportunity to meet with us today and share some of your experience with us.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me, Robbie.
You're so welcome. Stay tuned. We got more episodes to come. The Lyme community is our special community. It's, so deep in our hearts. We love all you guys out there. We're going to have the best month ever. And hopefully every day with the Healthy Hotline and things we're going to be doing, you guys are going to learn things and tips that are going to really rock your world. Stay tuned for more.
Hey everybody, it's Robbie Bessner. Thanks so much for joining us today. Please share this content with anyone that you think might benefit from it, and we're looking forward to having you with us tomorrow for another great interview.